he was, I think, more nervous than me. And he said to me, Bob, I got to ask you, I got all this film crews, airtime, filming you in prep for this. Can you tell me, do you think you're going to finish? And I kind of put my arm around him. I said, Al, you know how I got here. You know what's at stake for me. I said, you could put a Sherman tank between me and that finish line, and I'm coming across. It might not be pretty, but I'm coming across that finish line. And I had a day that reflected that.
Welcome into the Fit for Radio podcast. I'm your host, Drew Tiedemann, at the beautiful Stafford Hills Club right here in Tualatin, Oregon. If you haven't been to the place, it's worth checking out. StaffordHills.com, saltwater pool, brand new workout facilities. I'm here constantly trying to work on my physical and mental well-being. And if you haven't had a chance, you want to come through for a tour, the wonderful staff will walk you through the whole place and you can check it out. And if you love it, hit me up and I'll get you half off your initiation, StaffordHills.com. Right now, actually, a guy who is well regarded here at the club, and that's actually how I got a hold of his name, an incredible man with 43 Ironmans under his belt as we speak. His name is Bob Jordan. Welcome into the show, Bob.
Thanks, Drew. Thanks.
It's nice to have you. Now, another mutual friend of ours here at the club said, you got to talk to Bob. And so started to do a little bit of research on you. And you do have an incredible story. Your first triathlon before you got into Ironmans is way back in 1984. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So for people who don't know, Bob, there's a lot of people who don't understand the difference between a triathlon and an Ironman. Is that all distance related?
Yes. So a triathlon is a generic term for swim, bike, and run, usually in that order. And any event that has those swim, bike, run events can be called a triathlon. An Ironman is a unique subset of that, in that an Ironman is a reference to distances for each of those events. So an Ironman would be 2.4 miles swim, 112-mile bike, and a 26.2-mile run. And essentially, those distances came from the origin of how Ironman started. And it was a bunch of military guys in a bar, and they were discussing who would be the toughest athletes in the world. And so it was in Hawaii that they were having this discussion, and they talked about the Waikiki rough water swim, which was 2.4 miles, the ride around the island, which was 112 miles, and the Honolulu Marathon. And as they were debating what would be the toughest events or the toughest athlete, somebody, probably the person with the most amount of beers in them, said, let's combine all those three in one day and see who's the toughest person, and we'll call that person an Ironman. And it started from that.
Which is incredible, because most of us who grew up catching the Ironman broadcast, the one in Hawaii where, just some random Saturday it would pop on and there'd be this full-blown, beautiful broadcast where most of us would come to the realization at the intro that this was impossible, that to do those things would be impossible. And a lot of times, you watch them as they get into the water at the beginning, and it's not a pool. It's standard rough water, or, just real life water conditions. And just to complete that swim and then get out and to move to the second phase seems daunting to your average individual. When this is happening and you're starting to fall in love with the idea, and you've already done a triathlon, why did you go in this angle? What made you go here initially?
I think it was the challenge of it. I was reading in Sports Illustrated where there were people in the sports community, people in the medical community saying that these distances were impossible, that it would be dangerous, that it wasn't advisable. And I think there was something in that somebody suggesting maybe that I couldn't do it that just bugged me. What do you mean I can't? I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean I can't do this? I
Why
can
not
do
me?
anything.
Yeah.
My personal avatar is Superman. So I kind of think, well, I'm kind of Superman. Who tells Superman he can't do something? So I kind of internally bought into that, and I sent away for the first application. And there were only, back when I was interested, there were only a couple of qualifying races in my area. So I entered the lottery, and what they sent me back to enter the lottery got me even more interested. It said, this is, if you get in, you're going to be 2.4 mile swim through the open ocean with big waves, marine life swimming around you. You'll enter the lava fields on your bike. It could likely be over 100 degrees with these howling mamuku winds, they call them, crosswinds coming off the ocean. And finally, a marathon through the lava fields, and in which people were saying that your sneakers, your running shoes would melt as you were running through them, all of which, probably some element of truth to it, but that intrigued me. And I thought, I want in on this.
Is that initially a move to scare off those who are not meant for this?
I think it was probably a combination of maybe an insurance consideration that if you bought into this after reading all these warnings,
you've been warned.
You've been warned. If you yourself melted out on the lava fields, they could shrug their shoulders and say, well, we told you. But I also think there was an element that we really don't know how hard this is. There's not been that many people exposed to it. It's in the early days of the sport. And so just be warned, this is something new. I think there was an element of that to it as well.
So when you're entering the lottery to go to an Ironman, at this point, have you done Ironman races or have you just done triathlons?
I had done some triathlons, and out of my own frustration for not being able to get into Hawaii, I did a non-branded Ironman. My first one was in September 1989, a race called the Endurance Triathlon in Sunapee, New Hampshire in September. And I was so jazzed to be in the sport, but also so naive and unaware. I remember standing on the banks of Lake Sunapee, New Hampshire in September, and there was maybe 300 people in the race. And I'm standing there ready to start the swim. And the race director himself came up to me and said, out of all these people, comes up to me and says, so Bob, are you ready for this? And I'm thinking, wow, he's picking me out because I look like I'm ready to go. And I said, yeah, I'm ready. He says, well, have you ever, swum? I said, oh, I do a lot of swimming. I'm not real fast, but I'm going to last out there. He said, the reason I'm asking, Bob, is because if you look around, you're the only one here without a wetsuit. And part of me was thinking, gosh, a wetsuit, that probably would have been a good idea.
It'd be nice and warm.
Yeah, but I didn't have one. It wasn't in my budget. And so it didn't bother me at all. I jumped out there and I swam the distance. But at the end of the swim, again, this is New Hampshire in September, an open lake. I got out of the water. My wife has this great video of me coming out of the water, walking through the bike transition area, looking for my bike, seemingly unaware of where my bike was or who I was. And I think at that moment, if you'd asked me what my middle name was, I would have blanked on you.
So the swim was that intense?
It was that cold.
Oh, okay.
That cold. So I was suffering from hypothermia.
Started to shut you down.
Right. But I regrouped. I said, okay, I know I'm cold. I know I'm cold. And the answer to being cold is to warm up. Well, I wasn't going to let my race time elapse while I sat in some warming tent. So I thought, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get on this bike. I'm going to pedal as fast as I can, warm up. And that's what I did. And I did warm up.
I like that.
Yeah.
And, that in itself is a motivation to go fast enough to kill the hypothermia.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, get the blood flowing. And I was so amped, so psyched to be doing it. It was my first one. I wasn't thinking about pacing. I was thinking about I need to warm up. And I did, and it worked out, and it was a big learning experience.
Did you, in the future, did you end up using wetsuits?
Oh yeah. I now, if you
That
look at
was
my
it.
closet, I've got full sleeve wetsuits. I've got sleeveless wetsuits.
You got it all.
I got it all. Yeah.
That's amazing. So in that race, you get on the bike and you get moving, and you eventually, get through it. Do you complete this?
Oh yeah. I did. I finished my first one in 13 hours and 49 minutes. And I remember two aside from coming down the finish line, which was so super memorable.
I bet that was awesome.
Just unbelievable experience. I remember at one point on the run, I stopped to urinate, and I thought I saw some darkness in my urine. So I grabbed a cup and I ran to the medical tent with this cup full of urine, and I said, "Is this
a problem?
Is this a problem?" And the guy says, "Well, that's a little blood in your urine. It means you're dehydrated, buddy. Just keep going. You don't have that far to go." So I thought, I threw the pee on the road there, and I thought, "All right, this is cool.
I'm good."
And then about a mile from the finish line, I hear the race director. He has a spotter a mile out who's looking at your bib number. And so as I'm coming up over the hill, he calls out my name, basically because the spotter saw me coming. And here comes Bob Jordan. This is his first Ironman. And I could have been floating.
Oh, I
could
bet.
have been floating.
I bet all the pain of the day is kind of fades away in that moment.
Really, absolutely. I can remember it vividly now, all these years later.
And so finishing that race, was that just like having a taste of the drug that is Ironman?
Oh yeah. And I thought, if I can do this, not knowing what, like the wetsuit issue, all that other stuff.
Yeah.
If I can do this and finish in that time with very little experience, and in those days there were no triathlon coaches; they didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, what could I do if I actually could learn from this experience, focus my training a little bit more? Could I go faster? And that was kind of my goal.
And so you start to hone in at that point on trying to get better and better times.
Right. Exactly.
So how long are you doing Ironmans? And at this point, are you done doing triathlons? Are you just going straight Ironmans? Are you still doing both?
I'm doing both. So I was entering the lottery for Hawaii
every year. Okay.
I was entering half Ironmans to try and qualify, because in those days there were only 2 or 3 Ironmans in the world.
So you didn't have all these options to get into the big dog.
And the big dog had qualifying races, half Ironmans, kind of scattered all over the place.
Okay.
So I was entering some of those, doing okay. But a lot of times I was happy with my finish times, but I wasn't close enough to qualify. And it coincided with having a young family,
Mm-hmm.
and having a 50-hour week job. So I had to balance those things. There's nothing more valuable than your relationship with your family, especially when the kids are little. So I realized, I could be selfish and disappear on the bike for 6 hours on a Saturday.
But you need to be balancing for everyone and everything.
Right. And that was my goal.
So 50 hours a week at work is a lot. And so what's the training regimen? Are you attempting to go in the mornings? Are you training in the evenings? How are you balancing that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I did a lot of things that in retrospect were dumb. So I would commute to work on my bike. That would give me 100 miles a week on my bike that didn't cost me any time.
Mm-hmm.
In San Diego and in Washington, D.C., 2 places where I lived at the time, if the 10-mile commute to work took as long on a bike as it did in a car because of traffic.
Yeah.
So I would ride my bike. In retrospect, it gave me my 100 miles a week that I didn't have to make up for on the weekend. But to some extent, they were junk miles. Because if you're in pitch dark, a lot of times it was, you can't be hitting 20 miles an hour on a bike trail. You're going to run something over or get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And I've run things over and been hit myself. So I kind of, they were junk miles, but I'd love to see those miles in the logbook.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would make up a lot on the weekends, and I would also do stuff at night.
Yeah, because now I do a lot of stationary bike stuff in my garage before people wake up, and I call them maintenance miles. They're just here to keep the blood flowing, keep you vascular, that type of a thing. But I'm thinking about you in the grand scheme of things, and you're having to peel off, what is it, 100 and how many miles on the bike?
112.
112. So
Right.
that to practice that is ever time consuming. How were you able to just kind of put that into a frame of reference so you knew that you might be able to do that come race day?
Right. So that's a really good question. So when you have time constraints, which I did, and you have a big volume goal, like 112 miles, you can either target long rides or shorter, super intense ones.
Mm.
So I was all heart rate monitor based. So I made sure that after I was warmed up for 5 minutes, if I only had an hour to ride, I'd warm up for 5 or 10 minutes. And then it would be kind of redlining it.
So what's that target heart rate look like for you?
So back in those days, when I was in my early 40s,
Mm-hmm.
it would be 155, 160 beats a minute.
And sustained for
Anywhere, depending on what the goal was, between 40 and 55 minutes.
which is a pretty solid heart rate, and because if you're just lollygagging on a bike, you're at 110. If you're doing a little bit extra, you're at 130. But to be at 150, you do have to have a pretty good pace.
Right, exactly. And so I would try to make up for the shorter, high intensity rides on the weekends by going for longer rides outside.
Mm-hmm.
My shorter rides were always indoors on a trainer, and I experimented with all the various indoor trainers at the time, just straight rollers to CompuTrainer when they came into being.
Mm-hmm.
Now the much more sophisticated bike training. But I would always try to get in longer rides on the weekend outside.
So before we get into kind of your next phase of your journey, I wonder, with a lot of these athletes, they talk about when they're talking about people trying to win Ironmans and all that, there are the great swimmers, the people who get out in front. There are the great people on the bike who establish a lead and try and withstand the kick of the great runner. So for you, what was your hardest and your most successful parts? And they could be the same, but which was hardest and which did you find you made up the most time?
Right. So I think my signature race, the one that I'm kind of most proud of, by the way, I trained and executed for it, was Ironman Maryland in 2017. And I had a spotter on the course with me who, when I came out of the water, she said, "You're in third place in your age group." Perfect. Third place. It's only one time that I ever come in first out of the water. And then when I got off the bike, they said, "You're in second place," but I'm a runner.
So that's you got the kick.
I got the kick. But my own observation after being in the sport for a long time is, if you're a strong cyclist, yeah, it's okay to kind of go for it. But you want to pace yourself so that whatever your strength is, that you can get off the bike and run. Because to me, and I'm talking age group Ironman stuff, the race comes down to late race fade for most people. So you see it where mile 18, mile 16 on the run, long day, people been out there over 10 hours. And you see the people starting to walk at mile 16.
Mm.
And when I figured out how to avoid late race fade, that's when I started to win.
Because now you're catching people on the back end.
Right. And the folks that are, and I remember this one, a fellow competitor in my age group, he would pass me at mile 40 on the bike, and he would scream, probably louder than necessary, "On your left," like with arrogance.
Yeah, a little bit extra.
And in my early days, the same guy, I would chase him for a bit, thinking, wow, this guy's passed me and he looks like he's on fire.
Yeah, I got to stay with him.
Got to stay with him. Who is he? Where's he? Can he sustain this? I don't want to lose this race at mile 40 on the bike. But after a couple of experiences like that, I realized, you know what? If he's going that fast, and can sustain it, I'll never catch him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to race my race.
Because you know the plan for you.
Right.
And so using somebody else's plan, and that would be my problem too. Somebody taunts me, I take off, and then I'm gassed.
Right. I think everybody's got an ego.
Yeah.
And folks in an Ironman,
you're trained for
larger ego.
Yes.
And so I would get sucked into that challenge, and it never worked out well for me. So my response was, after foolishly chasing someone like that for a while, was race your own race. And on a couple of occasions, the same person I would pass at mile 16. And later at the awards ceremony, this person one time came up to me and says, how did you pass me? And over a beer, it basically said, so tell me about what your race plan was. Did you track your heart rate? What was your plan coming off the bike?
Mm-hmm.
And my sense is that he hadn't thought that one through. So to be able to get off the bike and still be able to keep running at mile 16 or 17 of the marathon, that's a key factor.
Oh, absolutely. And before I get to the next point, I would say you could have got him there when you guys had beers. As you go up to the bar, you just give him a little on your left. But not having a plan is, I just recently tried to break this crazy push-up record, and I did not have a plan. I was just like, well, I'm good at this. And so like, I'm just going to do it. And then you get 40 minutes into it, which is kind of like 40 minutes into an hour challenge when it's physical fitness like that is kind of like what you're talking about, where people start to walk at mile 16 and your blood sugar's gone sideways and your brain is begging you to quit and you're trying not to. But the body, just if it is not fueled correctly, if the plan is not right, it will not win.
That's right.
And I learned that the hard way. Right. I'm sitting in front of my own daughters like, just go, Dad. I'm like, I am trying my hardest.
Right.
You're listening to the Fit for Radio podcast, brought to you by the Stafford Hills Club. Of course, I tell you all the time that they were voted the best health and wellness club in the Portland area. Well, you can see it when you get here. It's evident the second you walk into the lobby. They're so friendly, so kind, and the facility itself, clean and convenient. So check it out, staffordhills.com. I wouldn't push it if I didn't truly believe it's a special place where you are stronger together, faster together, everything together at Stafford Hills. Check it out, staffordhills.com, and hit me up for half off your initiation fee. And when it comes to family, you actually had a wife and have two kids, a girl and a boy.
Yes. And
now I'm taking you back to the early days. And it's funny because you said you were doing the lottery to go to the big race in Kona, right. The ultimate Ironman, right? And so before you're qualifying for these things, the lottery is a representation of bringing on people who wouldn't necessarily qualify. How does that work?
Right. That's a very good question. So the original creator of Ironman, John Collins, when he sold the race, one of the things that he asked for is that Ironman reserve some slots for what he called everyman. So it wouldn't just be the super fast professionals, but it could be Joe Sixpack that just wanted to do it and found a way to finish. So they reserved slots for lottery, in a lottery. And what it was is you enter a lottery, usually the first part of like January or so, and they picked a certain number of people through the lottery process. And they mailed out the acceptances and rejections in late April.
Oh, so you would find out either way,
right?
Whether it's a yes or a no via mail,
right? And there was a fee to it. It wasn't a big fee, but there was a fee to it. And I think they refunded some of the money if you didn't get picked
Okay. They
There's a
want to know
process
you're
of safety.
serious.
Right, exactly. That's a very good. I think that's part of it. And just coincidentally, my birthday's in late April, and by the time the letter came back, it was usually May 1st. So um, I had been trying the lottery for many, many years, and on my 10th year of trying, it was in 1997. And but in the build up to 1997, my daughter Emily, who was just a little kid, she got used to this family tradition, pathetic as it may sound, of I would say, "Come on, Emily, we're going to go check the mailbox." Now, this is early 90s. There was no internet or people weren't
Yeah.
sending emails. You'd literally go to the mailbox.
That's everything at the mailbox.
Right. And we would we'd walk to the mailbox, and she was aware that this was my big dream to get into Kona. Of course, she saw me training all the time. We had a baby jogger that I literally wore out, had to buy new tires for this baby jogger because I would drag her on my big runs.
Awesome.
So she was very aware of this. And then we would go to the mailbox, and I would open the letter in front of her. And of course, I was rejected so many times. And she would see her dad do this dramatic, sad walk back into the house, and she would try to console me. And that's what was going on for most of the 90s. And when Emily was 4, she was diagnosed with leukemia. And my wife Terry and I, she was our only child at the time. We responded really like any and every parent would and should. We basically, she was our only priority. And we dragged her all over the place to every specialist, every kind of pediatric oncologist you could imagine, up and down the West Coast. We never got any good feedback. She had a presentation that most of the doctors said they'd never seen anybody with a high white blood cell count as high as hers survive. So we were warned right up front we were in trouble. She was only 4 when this started. So we tried to shield her from exactly what this meant. While between the two of us, Terry and I, we were in a dead panic. What are we going to do about this? And as it progressed over the course of 15 months, we were offered an opportunity for her to get an experimental bone marrow transplant at the UCLA Med Center. And it was really our only hope of keeping her here. So we went up there in February of 1997, and Emily had said she wanted to be a big sister, and she was an only child really up to that point. And I had convinced Terry that we should probably try to have another kid.
Yeah.
And I think her early response was, "What are you, nuts? We're in the middle of the storm.
We're battling."
And I cynically brought Emily into the equation because Emily wanted to be a big sister. So Emily started working on Terry.
Yep.
To have another child. And so in January, Emily's little brother, Timothy, was born. And in February, a month later, we moved up to UCLA Med Center. So we were quite a sight walking in there.
Brand new baby and everything.
Brand new baby. And I think Terry and I were very aware that when we walked in there that Emily might not ever come out.
Was she in a great amount of pain at this point? What was she experiencing day to day?
She was in some discomfort. She was on she was on some meds, some steroids, prednisone that kind of made her cranky at times and irritable. But, she, at that point, she was 5 years old, and, little things could also brighten her day.
Mm-hmm.
Terry and I made a promise to her and to each other that we would never, ever leave her alone. So in all her hospital stays, one of us stayed with her the entire time. I usually took the night shift, slept in her room, and Terry, if she had Timothy, took the day shift. And this was kind of what was going on in the spring, late spring of '97. And in April of '97, she was in the middle of this bone marrow transplant. And in mid-April or so, she wasn't doing well. And the doctors told us that she had lost the stem cell transplant that they had given her. And they were doing this worldwide search for another match. But at that point, she had lapsed into a fair amount of pain. And they wanted us to put her into a drug-induced coma.
Which must have been tough.
It was hard. Just your worst nightmare. We didn't have a lot of choice, and we did that. And so on my birthday, April 24th, we're in Emily's hospital room, but she had been relocated to this ICU room because she's in a coma.
Mm-hmm.
And on that particular day, this being LA, someone knocked on her door, and this film crew, this guy with perfect hair and a camera guy over his shoulder, asked if Bob Jordan was in the room. And yeah, that's me. And
you're probably pretty confused at the moment that there would be a camera here to see you at a hospital.
Right. I did a kind of a scan. Okay, what's
the end game here?
What's the end game here? And they told me that, as a total surprise to me, he said, "Are you aware of a letter that your daughter Emily wrote to Ironman?" I didn't know what he was talking about. And he handed me a copy of the letter. And the letter basically said, "Dear lottery people, my name is Emily. I'm 5 years old. I'm at the UCLA Med Center getting a bone marrow transplant for my leukemia. I want to get my dad a present for his birthday, but I can't leave my hospital room. He's always wanted to be at the Ironman in Hawaii. He's even in the lottery this year. Please pick him. But even if you don't, he's still an Ironman to me. Love, Emily."
Wow.
So I read that letter on screen the first time with a camera in my face. And they handed me a lottery slot right then. They gave me this lottery slot. I later learned that David Yates, who was the race director for Hawaii, when he got that letter, he himself being the father of two little girls, read the letter and said, "This guy's coming to Kona." And he walked over to the lottery processing room and he said, "We're picking this guy." And they had my lottery application on their desk about to pick me.
They'd already picked you?
I don't know whether they'd already picked me, but they had it in front of them.
But it was like all this destiny moment.
Right. I think that's right. And so they gave me this lottery slot. And that was on April 24th of '97. 5 days later, we lost Emily. We had to let her go. And so Terry and I and 3-month-old Timothy limped back to San Diego. That's how that ended. I had always wanted to, of course, be in Hawaii, race that race. I didn't want to go that way.
Yeah.
But I also realized that this would be a wonderful way for me to grieve. I'm not a churchgoer. I think I'd be struck by lightning if I walked into a church. But I realized that working through this would be a good way for me to grieve. The race was in October. This was April.
Mm-hmm.
And about a month later in May, someone from NBC called me up and said they were preparing to film Ironman that October, and they wanted to know if I would be willing to be part of their human interest story. And I'm kind of a private person. I said, not really. I don't think I can. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to grieve
Yeah.
in a public way.
And I don't think that anyone would blame you for that. I mean, I have 3 daughters myself, and it just keeps running through my head as you talk, where I would be as a father at this moment, and trying to be a rock for the family, trying to, still do everything else you have to do to keep us afloat. And now this.
Right. And part of me was like, I wanted to crawl into a hole. I didn't want to be in the spotlight.
Yeah.
And I told them no. And I even said, if for some reason this is inconsistent with you guys giving me a lottery slot, I'm willing to give the spot back. I don't think I can do this. But my wife, Terry, thinks on a much higher plane than me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I told her this, she said, Bob, you need to say yes. It's a good thing for you to talk about, Emily. This is a good thing for you to talk about. And it's something that you should share. And so I think she was right. And I did. And I remember the crew showing up at our house in San Diego before the race and spending some time with us. And I got to feel for the producer, who himself, being the father of little kids, kind of understood where we were coming from.
Someone you could trust.
Yes, exactly. I remember on race morning in Kona, months later, he was waiting at the pier for me. And I showed up with Terry and Timothy, and he was, I think, more nervous than me. And he said to me, Bob, I got to ask you, I got all this film crews, airtime, filming you and prep for this. Can you tell me, do you think you're going to finish? And I kind of put my arm around him. I said, Al, I think it was Al Szymanski, just a wonderful person. I said, Al, you know how I got here. You know what's at stake for me. I said, you could put a Sherman tank between me and that finish line, and I'm coming across. It might not be pretty, and it might not be suitable for anything but mature audiences, but I'm coming across that finish line. And I had a day that reflected that.
How did it go?
It was so cathartic, in the sense that I realized when I was out on that course that what I was experiencing was something super unique. During the swim, all I could think about was, I'm not much of a swimmer, so I'm thinking I need to get through this swim. There was a couple times when I'm swimming and I see some big dark object below me moving around, bigger than me. I remember at one point during the swim, I looked down there and I saw this big thing moving, and I put my head up, and one of the people on the kayak said to me, what is it? I said, there's something down there as big as a Buick. And he looks down and he says, oh, that's a grouper. I said, what's a, I mean, I'm from New Jersey, but
yeah,
that's a grouper. I don't know what a grouper is. So don't worry about it.
Massive.
All right. Massive, but harmless. So I kept swimming. But when I got out on the bike, I felt more comfortable. I could see around me. Wasn't anything that was going to eat me.
Yeah. No grouper.
No groupers. And I realized I was so excited to be out there. This had been something I dreamed of for over 10 years, that I was enjoying the whole thing. And I remember at one point coming back through the lava fields on the bike, there was another gentleman next to me, and he said to me, gosh, it's so hot. It's so this and so that. I'm thinking, wow, we are on the Ironman race course. We're 20 miles from the start of the run. Where else would I want to be? I need to get away from this person.
Yeah, you don't ruin my moment.
Right. And then, so I got off the bike, and I felt like I could run. So the run, I had confidence in my run. And at one point, Terry saw me along the course. She asked how I was doing. And I took a moment to stop. And I said to her, and I don't know where this came from, because I was, I was in the fog of running. But I said, I can't help but think that this race is the last gift that I'll ever get from Emily. There's not another one coming.
Yeah.
And I can't go any faster, but I wish I could make it last longer. And I kept thinking that. And as tough as the race was, I had a smile on my face. Like when people were like complaining and whining, especially, older age groupers towards the end of the race, it gets pretty tough.
They're hurting.
You're hurting. And I certainly had those moments, but I was also thinking, this is the last gift I got from Emily, and I'm going to relish it. And I did. And coming across the finish line, like 100 yards out, hearing the race director saying, here comes Bob Jordan. And he's here because of a letter his daughter Emily wrote. I'm not sure my feet touched the ground.
Could have been Carl Lewis at that point, going as fast as he possibly could.
Exactly. And I thought I was going as fast as I could when I later saw the video.
Not all the way.
not quite Carl Lewis.
I will say though, and I know you don't need me to tell you this, but Emily, I feel like that race, she's kind of the wind behind you, and while you're not a religious guy, and I'm not really either myself, but I do believe in this human spirit, and that I've had some times in my life where I feel like someone who I've just lost is still maybe there before they're gone, and
right.
And I don't know any more than the next guy, but there's something special about that. And I can guarantee you that if my assumptions are correct, she is as proud in that moment as any kid could be of their father, because I know my girls and they hold you on high. And when your daughter was hurting, all she wanted wasn't toys for her and this and that. It was something for dad.
Right.
And
exactly.
So I believe that she might have been pushing that grouper a little bit away from you. She might have been, the wind on that bike, and she was there at the finish line.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true. And later on, when they put the whole video together, so the race was in October, and by the time the producers edited all the other stories and the pros, what the pros did and all that, it came out in December. And the producer called us up and said, it's going to air on this day. And we had no idea what was going to be on there. I'd never seen any of the footage beforehand. And we watched it in our place in San Diego with Timothy, now 11 months old, and it just blew me away. What a great job they did of covering Emily's letter and what we just talked about. And the race director told me later on that was one of the most watched Ironmans they ever had. And I don't think that really dawned on me what that meant until, and I can say this, that was 97. And as you mentioned, I'd done 43 Ironmans. And I've kept at it. I have never been on an Ironman race course running along since that day without somebody coming up to me out of the crowd and saying, "Are you Emily's dad?"
That's pretty incredible.
And so I don't know who those folks are. And I don't know how they could, a lot of times 28 years has passed.
It's a lot of time. I mean, to still be getting, it shows the impact.
I think so. And so if you're mile 18 on the run and you're hurting and you're thinking, geez, I think I'm going to walk for a little bit or sit down or feel sorry for yourself, and someone comes up and says that to you, that's a boost.
Yeah, that's going to get you going.
You're not going to sit down, and you're going to rise to the occasion. And so that's also true.
That's incredible. And I will tell you, so this morning before you came on the show, I was sitting there having my coffee and I was on my computer and I was reading over your notes and doing a little research on you. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try and find that video. Yeah. I want to watch that video. So I was scrolling through YouTube and I found somebody had the entire Australian broadcast from 1997. And so I sat there and I popped it open this morning, and I'm just scrolling, and I see a young strapping Bob Jordan right there. And so like I stopped it, and my girls, we were getting pretty close to time to go to school, but I was like, you know what? Circle up. We're going to watch this video this morning. And we all watched it together, and it was very well done. It had an impact on me even after I had already knew what was going to happen. I'm sitting there tearing up with a hand on my chin, and Amy's like, we got to get going to school. I'm like, get over here and watch this thing.
Right.
Because it really is inspirational, and they did do a good job. And it's what I love about that, and what I also love about you coming on here is it's a chance to further solidify not just your legacy, but your daughter's legacy, and how great. I mean, you don't have to live a long life to have an impactful life. And so the impact that she had on you and your wife it ends up getting passed down to your son through all of those types of things. And I just think that she will always have a place, even though it's just 5 years. It's a very impactful 5 years. And that the love and the energy that's in a little girl is something that is impossible to replicate.
Absolutely.
And you do such a great job of honoring her.
Oh, thank you.
I think that's impressive. And I want to get into how you parlay that into what a lot of people, the journey ends right there, but not for Bob Jordan. He is not done yet. It's the Fit for Radio podcast, brought to you by the Stafford Hills Club. And I'm here as we speak. And one aspect of the club I'd like to touch on is the Kids Club. You're able to bring your kids here, drop them at the Kids Club, feel confident that they're safe and happy while you get your workout in. And really, it can be a stress reliever on another level. My own sister-in-law, who had twin girls and then tried to figure out how there's any time for yourself, a member at Stafford Hills, and was able to drop the girls, get that workout, get that free time, maybe even sit in the cafe and have yourself a cold beverage and a snack and just hear yourself think for once. It's overrated, or I guess it's underrated, what it's like to be able to have those moments to yourself. StaffordHills.com. Check out all the amenities, or hit me up for half off your initiation fee at Stafford Hills Club. And when I say that you're not done, it's not just you're not done running races and doing Ironmans. You guys make it a point to give back and to be a part of the battle against leukemia, because you saw it firsthand. You saw what it stole your beautiful little girl, and which is completely unfair to anyone or any parent. So what do you guys do after this initial Ironman where you have an ability to make a difference?
Yes, that's a great question. So this video was broadcast in December of 97. And in early 1998, a group of athletes in California were going to race their very first Ironman as fundraisers for the Leukemia Society. And they reached out to us, Terry and I, and asked if we would be the mascots for their team. And at that point, we had moved to New Jersey. So these folks were in California. We were in New Jersey. And we said, of course. And so we began to, we travel there on occasion to train with them. And they were doing an Ironman Canada up in Penticton. And so we kind of joined their team and started fundraising with them. And we spoke at some events for them. And Terry went off to do Ironman Lake Placid. I did Ironman Canada with the team in 98. And Terry kept fundraising for Leukemia Society. And we would do races, but she was out there raising money as fundraisers. So we did all kinds of races in Emily's name for Leukemia Society. And for all these years, Terry has raised lots of money. We've done the Dublin Marathon, numerous Ironmans for Leukemia Society. Terry was on their board of directors here in Oregon. And recently, the Leukemia Society, which is now named Blood Cancers United, renamed, they sent her to Washington, D.C. to lobby Congress.
Wow.
to make sure there's legislation funding research for leukemia. So she's been at it all these years. I've done races, but she's the one working the phones and gathering the money in. So we've kept that up all these years and still doing it.
Yeah, I was going to say, if your alter ego is Superman, then she's got some sort of superhero title herself.
Oh yeah, and the work that she's done. Not only she's actually I'm coaching her for the Lava Man triathlon in Hawaii next month.
Whoa, she's doing an Ironman?
No, it's a Olympic distance called Lava Man
But
in Hawaii.
still,
And she's 68.
that's awesome.
Yeah, and she's fundraising for that. And last year she did the climb, the stair climb up the tallest building in Seattle as a fundraiser. So she's swinging the bat, raising money for Leukemia Society. Yeah,
And I think it's really cool. Also, I mean, the fundraising is on another level and goes without saying that's peak human behavior right there. But also that she's staying active at this age like you are. And I saw some stuff, I don't know how long ago it was, but you, your wife, and your son were doing like a run together where y'all did different distances, but like you guys kind of get at it as a family.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And my son has grown up. I mean, this is what we do.
Yeah.
It would be
He's always been there for this.
Even as a little kid, we would kind of say to each other, "So what's the workout you're doing today?" When he was in high school, he organized a 5K run to benefit Emily in the neighborhood. He got hundreds of people to show up and run a 5K to raise money for Leukemia Society in his sister's name.
Which is, for a high school kid to do that, that's the next level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very impressive. Yeah. So you guys continue to do this stuff for charity and have your kind of your hand in it, which I think is impressive. You know, especially as time goes on. You know, well, you have a lot of passion for it. Not everybody has the drive to continue,
right,
and to keep making a difference. So that in itself is commendable. So you, Bob, you keep running though, and you get invited back to Ironman, right? The big dog.
Yeah. And so, coming across the finish line, the red carpet in Kona is an addictive experience. There's just nothing like it.
You need more.
And I realized I wanted to come back. It was such an experience. And so I made it my goal to get back there. But I still had a 50-hour-a-week job. Timothy was still a little guy. And my age group at the time was still pretty competitive. But I kept at it. And in 2002, a few years later, Ironman called me up and invited me to come back as part of an anniversary thing they were doing for folks that had been featured.
Oh, okay.
And they invited me back in 2002, 2003, and said, really, if you want to come back, just let us know.
We got you.
And I felt I was super honored that they would feel that way about Emily's story. But I also knew how hard somebody has to work to get a slot for Hawaii, to put their bike up on the pier, and how hard it was. And I thought to myself, I've been here because of Emily's letter, and I've been here because they've asked me to. But I want to get back here on my own. And so I made it my business. I'm coming back here, but I want to earn a slot.
Mm-hmm.
So and in my age group, I have to win. I have to come in first place. The way they allocate slots in my age group, you have to come in first in your age group.
Just number one.
Just number one. If you're 50 or 45 or something, there might be so many people in your age group that maybe the slots go down to fourth or fifth place. But there's not that many folks toeing the line at 65 that they're only allocate one slot to that age group. So I was swinging the bat for that one slot. And so that's for the 20 years from 97 to 2017. That's what I was doing, trying to get.
Kept swinging the bat.
I kept swinging the bat. And with a big job and family and all that, it was very hard to put in the quality time. But when I retired in 2013, I said to myself, well, Bob, you've either been lying to yourself all these years that you're fast enough to get there, but you don't have the time, or you've got to get serious and do it. So I said, I'm going to dig in here. When I retired, there wasn't really anybody looking for me to do anything. So I could not only put in the time to train, but as an athlete yourself, part of it is also to be able to recover.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I started. Got really serious in 2015 and was entering 3-4 Ironmans a year. I was coming in second, third, fourth. I was making the podium.
But not what you need.
Bridesmaid, but not the bride.
Mm-hmm.
And so in 2017, I'd done 3 Ironmans. I'd come in second, third, and fourth. And my coach at the time kind of encouraged me, Bob, you need to try one more time. You're trained up. And I thought, I'm in my I'm in my mid 60s here. I'm not, how many Ironmans can you do fast? But he had confidence in me. He convinced me to do Ironman Maryland in 2017 in October.
Okay.
So that morning, I sat there and I realized I've done the physical game. I've trained really hard. Have I really honed in my mental game? And so, in the very inauspicious place of race morning, within sight of the swim start, I propped myself up against a porta-john, which on race morning in an Ironman is usually full. And I propped myself up against this kind of jiggling porta-john.
Plastic.
And I told myself, I'm going to push it. I'm going to redline this thing. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to go for it. And so that's how I started the race in 2017. And I had a spotter that told me I was third coming out of the water. She was able to tell me that I was third coming out of the coming off the bike. And I passed the number 2 guy pretty quickly into the run.
And you're a runner. This is you've got hope here.
Yeah, exactly. Something I'm doing good here. So I'm running along, and she had told me that the number 1 guy is like 10, 12 minutes ahead of me. And that's still a big gap in an Ironman.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, I got to find this guy and run him down. So I'm running along. And in those days, you had your number, they stenciled on the back of your leg, your race number on one leg, but your age on the other one.
Oh, so you're staring at calves all the way down here.
Right. Exactly. So I'm running along. And I'm 64. So I'm running along and I see this guy ahead of me. And he's got a 6 on his calf. And it's kind of smudged a little bit. But I'm thinking, this is my guy because he's about the distance or how many minutes ahead of me that she had predicted.
Okay.
And I could say this because I'm an old guy. He had this kind of skinny chicken neck of an old guy. I've got one. And he also was kind of cranky. When he passed an aid station, he kind of grouched at the gal who handed him water as opposed to Gatorade. So I thought, okay, he's got this 6 on his leg.
It's grumpy.
And he's got a chicken neck. This is my guy. So I thought I had this strategy. I'm going to run behind him for a while, figure out his pace, figure out what my heart rate is. Can I pass him? We're now at like mile 12 or so. And I'm thinking, I don't want to pass him now because I don't want to have a 14-mile foot chase at the end of an Ironman. It's too
much.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So I thought I'm going to run behind him for a while, gather some intel. But this guy was rock solid. He just kept moving like he was And out of frustration, after a while, I ran up next to him and I said, as polite as I could, I said, "Excuse me, sir, are you in the 60 to 64 age group?" And he barely looked at me sideways and he said, I won't say the exact phrase that he said to me, but he said, "Screw you, pal, I'm 46.
That's feeling pretty good for you at this point, because that means that you're chasing a 46-year-old, but are you worried that where's the other guy?
Yeah, where's the other guy? And my spotter was the first time she had ever spotted anybody. So I thought, okay, maybe she doesn't know how to work the app or something. So now I'm like at mile 13 or 14. I got 12 miles to go. I don't really know where I am. I don't think I've passed the number one guy, but I thought I'm going to run scared here. And I started to run like I was being chased with a knife because I didn't know where I was. And damn, I was not going to lose this one. And about mile 18, my spotter found me again on the course. And I stopped to talk to her. She said, what are you doing talking to me? You're number one. Keep going. I said, well, are you sure I'm number one? She goes, you're number, just finish. So I came across the finish line in first place.
Nice.
And the next morning at the awards ceremony, the folks doing the announcement, they give out the awards and everything and the Kona slots, and they do it by age. The younger people first and the older people last. And when they got to my age group, the announcer said, "So I've got a little something I want to share here. I don't usually do this." There's some 2,000 people in this banquet room. And he says, "So we got a guy here. How many people here were doing Ironman or even alive in 97? If you were, you might have seen this video." And he showed the 97 video with Emily's picture and me reading Emily's letter. And he said, "So for 20 years after the spotlight went off this guy, he's been swinging the bat, trying to get back to Kona. And yesterday, I'm in the race course. Bob came in first in the 60 to 64 age group. Bob, come on up here and get your Kona slot after 20 years of trying." And I had worked, I had been so hard, I needed help getting up the steps.
You were toast.
I was toast, but I did get up there. And
What a moment.
teary-eyed with more than 1,000 people giving me a standing ovation, I got my Kona slot.
And it's so many things. I mean, first of all, the first thing that comes to my mind is Emily and the fact that this is full circle. She always wanted you to get there. And if she would have had a chance to be around, she would have wanted you to do it your way and to earn the spot, because you deserve to be there in 97. You deserve to be there on those other times. You finished the race. That's all pretty awesome. But the way you did it that final time after leaning up against a portolet and telling yourself that I'm going to redline this thing and then doing it,
right,
that's something to be proud of.
Yes. I executed a plan that I had logically thought through, but it took an emotional push to put it all together, and it came together. And so it was this huge coincidence of what happened in 97 and 20 years later, full circle, coming back on my own, with Emily's picture in my back pocket. So
that is so awesome. And people see the end game of things, like whether it's a physical achievement or an Ironman or whatever, and it's like, wow, that's pretty amazing. But they don't think about the hundreds of hours that you spend in the dark, riding that bike to work, or trying to count your heart rate in the garage, or whatever it is, over and over and over, with this goal that started as straight up unobtainium,
right,
all the way to where you're on that stage. For you, Bob, how did the two feelings compare of when you got to go the first time in honor of Emily and when you got to go when Bob Jordan earned it himself?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for sure, my first time in Kona in 97, it was, I can't describe it without thinking about this was a gift from Emily and the last one I'll ever get from her. And my exposure to that feeling of coming across that finish line didn't go away the next day. And I thought this was an incredibly cathartic experience. I want to come back here. And I want to honor her memory by coming back at some point on my own. And I also, part of it was respect for my fellow athletes who I knew that if I was to take Ironman up on some of their offers and come back, in a sense, trading on Emily's memory, part of me was thinking, I don't want to take a spot from someone else who's worked so hard to get here. So I want to respect them and honor her memory by coming back here on my own. And in 2017, I did. And so it's a nice full circle for me. Again, so cathartic.
Yeah. And the race itself, your respect for the race, and now granted, you don't want to use her legacy to get yourself a ticket. And that makes total sense. But also the fact, it's the other half of that I just keep coming back to in my mind is, how hard it is to get here.
Right.
And so that it takes 20 years of grinding to do it the right way. And for every, I don't want to call it a freebie, but for every bonus ticket, one person who grinded and grinded and grinded is not going.
That's right.
And their dream dies.
Right. And it's, I think for someone who kind of looks at my own experience and says, well, that's an impossible thing to do, or even that it's inspiring. I kind of have a visceral reaction to that in the sense that the sum total of it might be worthy of note. But if somebody followed me around every day, you would be bored to tears, because what it really means to get there, and I've coached a few folks myself since then.
Yeah.
What it really means is you've got to commit yourself to somewhere between 2.5 to 3 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be riding up between 130 and 170 miles a week on an indoor trainer for the intensity of it. You're going to be running between 25 and 40 miles a week running. And you're going to be doing a lot of swimming. Plus, you're going to weight lift.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to be doing a lot of laundry. And I think
it's a couple outfits a day. It really is.
It really is. So that part of it, it's you're just doing the work.
Yeah,
doing the work. And I feel fortunate that I'm about to turn 75. I can still do it, and I still enjoy it. I still enjoy it.
And I think you do a great job of a thing that I kind of live my life on, and that is that consistency wins the day. And I see you in the gym here. I'm here all the time at Stafford Hills, and I'll see you in the gym on a regular basis. And knowing that that's not even your training for all the aspects of what you do, that's just the maintenance part of it. And, I do a ton of push-ups, and people know that. And, I talk to people about it, and they're like, oh, wow, you did 1 million push-ups in a year. That seems cool. And you're like, but you also have to think that it's extremely boring. It's the 2 hours in the morning in the pitch black as I'm checking emails and pounding out 100 at a time by yourself, alone, counting to 100. It's monotonous, and it's boring to so many people, but it's what makes me me.
Right.
It's what makes me different than others. And it's, in a thing where we're all kind of the same thing. Bob Jordan is special because this is something you do that others don't.
Right.
And it's the consistency that allows you to do it. Because if you were to stop at 74 and just be like, oh, I might get back into it next year, that's not likely to happen.
Right. That's right.
You have got to continue to just keep chomping away and chomping away.
That's right. And I think that's a really good point. You know, um, I certainly came away from losing Emily with, and this is something my wife and I say to each other all the time, is, every day's a gift. And if I can be doing this, in my mid 70s, that's a gift. I don't want to give that gift up. And one of my runs that I do, is I stay at it year round. I don't have an off season.
Smart.
I just don't. I get too antsy. I don't even really take a day off.
I also don't want to have to make up ground, because if you don't take days off, then you're at the level you were yesterday or better.
Right.
And not the other way.
Exactly. I don't. And so I enjoy the routineness of it, getting out there all the time. And I'm very grateful that I can do it. One of my runs takes me through a retirement community where I'm running through this kind of community where there's folks my age or younger that are with walkers or maybe on oxygen support. And I've been doing it for so long, for so many years, they cheer me on now. And I take some heart in that, I feel as though I'm very lucky to be able to do this. And so why would I give it up?
And use it while you've got it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that with, the way that, what happened with your daughter and everything, I think you have a better perspective than a lot of people about not waiting to live your life.
Exactly. It's kind of interesting. As folks age, people want to talk about aches and pains and all that stuff. And I have my share of those things, of course. But I'm really excited that I'm turning 75 in April. And I'll tell you why. Because at Ironman Cozumel last year, there were two guys that did Ironman in their 75 to 79 age group. And the winner took it in like 16 hours and 20 minutes. I could still pull off 12 and a half hour Ironmans.
Wow.
On a good day with a tailwind. So
wow.
I think that, and I follow all this stuff. I geek out on all this stuff, but like there's plenty of Ironman races where there's no one in the 75 to 79 age group, or like 4 guys enter and none of them finish. So if I can be out there towing the line, sticking my toe in the water at the race start at 75, I'm going to have a good day.
That's top 1%. Or, that's 0.01%.
Right.
It's incredible. And I want to talk to you about how any of that is possible. The Fit for Radio podcast is brought to you by the Stafford Hills Club. You have to check this place out. If you're anywhere in the area, it's worth a look. Not only do they have that saltwater pool, they also have all the amenities you could possibly imagine. But come springtime, it's going to be the spot for you to meet new friends and just to gather with the ones you've already got. It's so nice to be out by that pool. They've got the grill going, and then right inside, you got a place to relax by the fire and the whole deal right here at Stafford Hills. And if you're a tennis player, how about being able to play year round? There's a reason why this is called the Health and Wellness Facility of the Year in the Portland area. Check it out, staffordhills.com, or send me a direct message for your half-off initiation at the Stafford Hills Club. Because now that you're heading into the 75 age range and you have such a good time still, you clearly still have to win the race. But the next time you race, you're going to be in that realm.
Right.
What is it that for you, do you think, so is there an age group beyond this, or is this is it 75 plus? Is that
that's a great question. So, within males, there's a 75 to 79 age group, which I enter this year. They will, occasionally there's a there will somebody show up in the 80 to 84 age group. It's very rare. Last year, a woman named Natalie Graybow was the oldest woman to finish Kona at the age of 80.
Wow.
So, but what happens is among males, usually it'll be at 75, 2 or 3 guys register, 1 or 2 show, 1 or none finishes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that hard an event. My goal is to be the oldest Ironman finisher at Kona, and also to make the podium in Kona. So those are my goals. But it is theoretically possible somebody 85 could
do it if they can do it.
Could do it. They'll let you do it.
So you geek out on it, like you said, so you know who some of these other competitors are.
Right.
Do you feel like, and I know you feel good about qualifying if your time is so good, when you get there, are there other men who are going to give you a run for your money on that podium at the 75 level?
Oh, yes. And we know each other.
Well, you're a special group of people. You guys should probably be in like a chat group.
Right. And Ironman does this thing. This is kind of funny and cruel. They'll give you your bib number, so you rack your bike next to them. So you'll be this thing that happens sometimes. It's like something out of middle school. You're racking your bike next to some other guy who's in his mid-70s, and you know him from some other race.
Yep.
And they eyeball each other, and you can play mind games with them and say, "Geez, you're not looking too good today. Are you feeling all right?
Looking a little peaking."
Yeah. So there's some of that goes on, which is pretty funny.
A little friendly banter back and forth.
Right.
Get a little advantage. So this race that you're doing in order to get back to Kona, when did you say that all goes down?
So that's the inaugural Ironman Jacksonville, Florida in May. And if I win there, I will be offered a slot for Kona in October of this year.
Because wasn't there a race recently where you were on the verge and something?
Yeah. So
something happened.
My plan A was to get my Kona slot at Ironman Arizona this past November,
and you went.
I went, and I had done well. I've done well in Arizona in the past. A couple of years ago, I won my age group there by 2.5 hours.
Wow.
So I've had a good race there. It fits my strengths in the sense that it's the bike is relatively flat and hot, and the run is relatively flat and hot. And I do well in heat. I'm not a great technical cyclist screaming down a S curves on a mountain. That's not my thing.
But the heat is less detrimental to you than, say, a competitor.
Right. Exactly. So I've done well at Arizona, and so I entered Arizona. I was in Arizona, and when I was this past November, and I didn't have a great swim, but after 37 miles on the bike, my wife Terry was spotting me. She said, "You're in second place, and you're gaining on the number one guy." And at that point, I actually told myself, slow down, because I know I'm a runner, and the bike, again, is kind of geeky stuff, but on the bike, because it's relatively flat, I could zero in on what my average heart rate would be, stay with it, and know that if I stayed within that zone, I could get off and run, a 4:30 marathon. So, and I knew who my competitors were. And I thought, okay, I'm going to slow down here a little bit, just a little bit, give myself an edge on the run. 2 miles later, at mile 39, I'd making a corner, feeling great, and in a split second, I thought, I'm going down. Next thing I know, I wake up and there's an EMT poking me saying, "Can you tell me your name?"
Oh no!
And the spectator said I'd been hit from behind.
Oh, another bike hit you?
Another bike hit me, and it could have been. I haven't pieced this all together, but it looks like one of the professional athletes who had started before us and was on their second loop. It's starting the third loop. I was starting my second. Had made the corner and hit another cyclist who hit me from behind. So I never saw it coming.
Kind of a domino effect.
Exactly. So I had blacked out. My helmet was in shreds, and so I was in the emergency room. Missed. So that was hard.
So when you're in the emergency room, are you more upset about your injuries or the moment?
Well, here I'll tell you something that the EMT reminded me of is when they were loading me onto the rig. I'd said to him, my wife Terry's a couple miles back at the turnaround. Could you call her and just tell her where I am? I know she's going to be worried if she doesn't see me passing a checkpoint soon. He took down her number, and he said, I'll call her. And I said, what's the other thing? I said, where's my bike? Where's my bike? He said, okay, I can do that. What do you want me to check on first? And when I paused, he said, you're going to be all right, dude.
You thought about that bike for a second.
I thought about the bike for a second. So,
but you knew that she's a strong lady. So the bike needed repair.
And I knew, so when they were patching me up and all that, I also knew, so I had missed my shot at qualifying there. But I also knew that I had already entered Ironman Jacksonville as plan B. So I thought, okay, I now have 6 months to recover and get back out there. And I can do that. I've done that before, and I'll do it again. So I wasn't...
It wasn't over for you.
Right. Wasn't over. And I realized I hadn't broken anything. I hadn't,
And you're feeling good now? You feeling strong and ready to go?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm ready. I wish the race was tomorrow.
I mean, I was going to say, you've got a look in your eye like you got this thing.
Oh, I'm ready to go.
It's like the look you had 6 seconds after you walked away from that portolet, and you had told yourself that I'm going red line.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
On this thing.
Where I am.
Well, and a lot of people are going to listen to this and watch this, and they're going to think, I talk about this all the time. People have a failure to launch, whether it's starting their fitness goals, starting a healthier diet, any sort of exercise. It all just seems so daunting. It's just a failure to launch. I can't do that. I hear it so much, and I'm always trying to tell people to just take a step and let's start. And then you tell me later if you can't do it, but don't tell me you can't before you try.
Right.
For people who would like to get into triathlons and Ironmans and say they're like me and they're in their 40s or even their 50s or 60s, is it obtainable for someone who is, say they do exercise, but they don't know if they can go this hard?
Right. That's a great question. I think that, first of all, I'm exhibit A in the argument that anybody could do it. I have no natural talent whatsoever. I'm just a grinder. I just get out there and do it. I really have I didn't swim in high school. I didn't bike in high school. I didn't run. None of that stuff. So I'm exhibit A that anybody can do it. I think what I would tell somebody who's kind of interested in sticking their toe in the water, so to speak, is to figure out what your goals are. What do you really want? And what are you willing to put into it? So if I was coaching somebody that came to me and said, I'd like to do an Ironman, after assessing where they were, like what, if are they completely sedentary, or are they active? I try to figure out where are you? What's your starting point? I would certainly recommend that somebody wants to get into an Ironman that unless you're super fit and you're been pretty active, start slow. There's some great races out there that are half Ironman distances, Olympic distances that are very doable and can be trained for in 6 to 10 hours a week. And actually, unless you're super active, I don't think you want to start from ground zero to be going 20 hours a week Because if you do, you're going to get injured.
And it's going to hurt.
It's going to hurt. I think the other part of it is uh, to kind of clear your decks when you think about, I'm going to have a goal of, let's say, an Olympic distance race. I know from my own experience that you don't want to be on a Saturday morning bike ride for an hour and a half and you're out on the road or you're in your garage working on your trainer and your significant other is rolling their eyes in the kitchen because you promised to do this or that. So I think it's a good idea to figure out your other relationships in your life. Are they okay with this? Are they supporting you? And find some common ground with them.
Yes.
That this is what, are you willing to support me for the 6-month period or let me try this? You don't want to have an Ironman widow or Ironman widower in the next room that begrudging you what you're doing. A 4-hour trainer ride is tough enough without finishing it and going in the house and having somebody mad at you.
And then it's icy. And it's tough because when you are achieving your goals and you're excited about it and you're always coming back to them with it, you need them to not be overwhelmed or over it.
Right.
You know, like there's a reason I don't do 1 million push-ups a year anymore. I had to let the family know that I will take these numbers down and I will be inside and I will be able to hear you. Because when you have to train, you have to train and your goal has to be achieved. And I could see the light in their eyes flickering a little bit. And so you can still do things that are great for you and manage your family, your life, your job, all the things that have to, because without those other things, you're not going to be that great at it anyway.
I think that's absolutely right. And, I think the conventional wisdom about what is cardiovascular fitness is that you don't need to be doing an Ironman to achieve peak cardiovascular fitness.
Yes.
I think maybe 10 hours a week will get you to peak fitness, depending on what kind of sports you're doing and at what intensity.
Mm-hmm.
Anything beyond 10 or 12 hours, the benefit is to your head.
That makes sense.
And so I would advise somebody who's interested in it is pick a goal that's doable, that you really want, and be realistic with yourself and with your family about what it takes. Because once you have the decks cleared and you've gotten the nod that, yeah, this is okay with work and family or what other commitments you have, then you can really put yourself to it and be completely focused on it. Then you'll find the fun in it, which is what it's all about.
Which is great. And I think it's awesome what you do because I think it's also in retirement. We see this all the time where, you don't have a day-to-day where you're at 50 hours a week and all these people are relying on you and it's keeping your wheels turning and keeping you moving. If you don't have something after retirement that is kind of your new job, or you're like, oh, well, I have to do this. This is what I do. That keeps your mind sharp, your body sharp, all the little things that start to fade away on you. And, I see you in the gym, you work on mobility. Yeah. You do all these things where, somebody who doesn't know the gym would look over and be like, what is he even doing? But you're doing all the little things to be able to move and to function. And my dad, who just turned 70, he says this to me all the time. He's like, I love that you work out, but stay mobile. Stretch your body, move your body, always keep yourself fluid so that you don't stiffen up. Or, everyone sees the guy when they walk down the street who's totally bent over and he'll never stand up straight again because he was too stabilized. Right. And I just think that you're doing it the right way. I did want to ask you before we go, you're in great shape. You have this regimen. How much of that has to come back to the stuff you put into your body, like your diet, and how do you address those things? And does that ebb and flow between race training and day to day?
Yeah, I think I consider nutrition is the fourth event, and it's probably the area where I need the most amount of work. I certainly watch what I eat. But a lot of times after workout, I'm so hungry.
You're just starving.
Yeah, I I try to eat unprocessed, minimally processed foods. I don't drink alcohol at all. When I turned 70, I kind of did a self-coaching session where I said, what could Bob do that would make Bob the best version of Bob that's out there? And I just ticked off a bunch of things that I didn't need or wouldn't make me the best version of myself. One of them was alcohol. Another is not paying attention to sleep.
Yes, very important.
Very important. And the mobility that you mentioned, that's something I reinvigorated my interest in that. But nutrition is something that I could probably work on a little bit more. I just get so hungry.
It's tough.
It's tough. Yeah.
And I do the same thing. I get done training and I'll be in here in the studio. I'll walk across the little breezeway and I'm like frantically eating a protein bar, and then I'm frantically eating a beef stick, like a one that's good for you, not like a Slim Jim.
Right.
And then I'm still just famished. I want food so much. And the one thing that I do is I make sure that I'm not like go right to the breads and the cheeses and the things like that I do want most,
right.
But those are the things that are they're not going to keep me full, and they're not going to serve me an inflammation and all of those types of things.
Right.
But I'm with you on that. I think that people would look at workout regimen and be like, well, that's impressive. Sleep when stress isn't in the way, pretty decent. Food is the toughest one.
Right.
Because it's always right in front of you too. Alcohol, you can not purchase alcohol and it's not in your home. The bread and the cheese are still right there.
That's it. There's a big temptation, right?
It is.
Right.
So you're a work in progress on that front, but so do you have limitations? Do you limit carbs or those types of things?
Yeah. So I make sure that I have 3 good meals a day, not heavily carb stuff. I do a lot of protein shakes, eggs. I eat these protein bars. That's my go-to thing because they're mobile. I can put them in my gym bag, eat them between workouts. I don't drink things like Gatorade or those things. I drink this stuff called Element, which is salt-based. It doesn't have any carbs in it. Electrolyte stuff. And I find that satisfying. I try to keep hydrated because I sweat, what I'm doing.
You're always going.
Sweat. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's impressive. I mean, it really is. I could learn so much from you, and I'm sure when I see you on the gym floor, I'm like, a quick question about this, Bob. A quick question about that. And I can only hope, when I watched that video this morning, it wasn't lost on me that you and I are actually, I believe, the exact same age, you in that video and me today. And as a young father, and I'm sitting there moping, hearing, just because, I knew what you were going through at the time, and you're such an inspiration and such like a solid guy to not just get through that, but to also honor the legacy. Both you and your wife, Terry, are just incredible in the way that you went about honoring the legacy. And I just, I would just hope that I can be the kind of father and the kind of man that you've portrayed here. And I really appreciate you coming on here. And I think a lot of people could learn a lot from you and overcoming adversity, because that wasn't an easy time for you. You could have packed it in. You could have become the alcoholic, removed father who doesn't choose fitness and doesn't choose family. And probably people wouldn't have blamed you for it because what you've endured is grand. But just looking at your family of you and your son and your wife doing these events together and helping with charity, you're a stand-up guy, Bob, and I appreciate knowing you.
Thank you so much, Drew. Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, and it's and I'd love to talk to you again sometime, and maybe at some point. No promises here. I would love to try some sort of endurance thing like that. I've done the push-ups and stuff, but I ride a lot of bike. I need to work on the running, and you'd be the guy to talk to about it. And I got to get out there into that saltwater pool and work these arms a little bit.
Yep.
It's going to be good. But Bob, thanks for coming on. We are here, like I said, at the Stafford Hills Club, which is an incredible facility where you can train to be the next Ironman, or you could just train to look good by the pool. Check them out, staffordhills.com. Bob Jordan, 43, going on 44 Ironmans. Great talking with you.
Thanks, Drew. Great being here.